My name is Ronnie Dickson. I'm with Challenge Athletes Foundation Florida. Running as an above-the-knee amputee is one of those things that, for my first few years as an amputee, really seemed out of reach. Uh, you get used to walking with a prosthetic leg, but to a certain extent, you get comfortable walking on it, and you can walk fast, but breaking out into a run can be a really big challenge and something that almost seems daunting at times. But it certainly is an activity that can be doable for very active above the knee amputees. Something like biking, you can usually just go in whatever setup that you're in, and just as long as that setup meets the certain criteria, you can get off and go, no problem. But for running, to a certain extent, each one of the pieces has to be just right. Once again, like any other activity, it's important to have a good socket fit for running. Some of the suspensions that can be used, you can use a suction fit into your socket. You can use a liner in a vacuum system or in a suction system. Anything that uses a pin lock liner or a lanyard system, it just inherently has play in it, and the less play and movement you can have happening in the socket while you're running, I think the better outcome you're going to have. Whenever your leg's not fitting right, you can have abrasions down at the bottom, and it'll just feel like someone's been punching you in the leg for every step you've taken for the past 30 minutes. So it's really important to have a well-fitting socket for running. And then one of the issues that people encounter too with running is sweating inside the socket. One thing that you can do is you can apply unscented antiperspirant to your limb, and then some people too even take a piece of lamb's wool or maybe like a part of a cotton ball, and if you put that down in the bottom of your socket, it'll help absorb some of that initial sweat. So not even so much talking about the socket. Obviously the socket has to fit well. That's always a main criteria. But you have to have a knee that's going to be able to keep up with the speed of the activity. A knee like an Autobach 3R95 or a Total Knee 2100 seem to be the two preferred choices. But you can run in your everyday prosthesis with a normal foot. You don't need a special running foot to run. The running foot, it's great at distance running and at sprinting, but if you're going to do something like just go play pickup basketball with friends, having a normal prosthetic foot gives you a better base of support. You can pivot off it, you can turn, and I think it works better for those applications than a running foot would. A running foot's really only good at doing one thing, and that's running. With a normal prosthetic foot, it's designed to where it has a heel and a toe lever. So you hit the heel compresses, you come into mid stance, and the foot's flat, and then you come into terminal stance, and the foot propels you forward. But there, we just had kind of three different components that just happened, and these feet are typically a little bit heavier too. So that's a heavier weight on the end of what's a pendulum. It just takes time for all those steps to happen. And what happens with the running foot is you hit on the toe, you're coming forward on the toe, and all this time the running foot is compressing, and it's storing up energy. And right here, when you're about to go forward and swing this leg, it releases all the energy and helps propel you forward. So right here, we just have one continuous movement into where energy is being stored and released. The running foot is also lighter too, so it's less weight to swing through. So essentially, with an above-the-knee amputation, you're cutting straight through the thigh. So you're cutting your quadriceps muscles, your hamstrings, and you're reattaching them in different locations. So what happens is your quadriceps now, instead of helping propel you forward, and your hamstrings helping to propel your motion too, mainly those muscles get used to stabilize your residual limb in the socket. You're using your muscles in a completely different way than they were ever intended to be used. So talking about running, it's constantly this motion where you're using your hip flexors to get the leg forward, and then your hip extensors to pull it back and pull yourself over the leg. And it can be one of those things that's really, really exhausting at first. Just going out for, what would be 5-minute jog and leave you completely burnt out. But it's one of those things, once you build them up and once they do get to a certain point, um, you kind of always have the backup. So I can go out for a 3-mile run, while I'm training, or I can not run for 2 months and go out for a 3-mile run now, just because my body knows what it feels like, and it's been through all those changes. One of the most important things when you're starting to run is not getting yourself hurt in the process. Soccer fields, or even something like a golf course, is an ideal situation because the grass it's trimmed in such a way to where it's really short, and it's not going to interfere with the way your prosthesis works, or with the running motion. But you can take a spill and not beat yourself up doing it. Like if you take a spill on concrete, you're going to scrape up your palm or your elbow, or or whatever else you fall on. There's a great How to Run series that's out there by a physical therapist whose name is Bob Gailey, and I'll have links posted to that on my site if anybody would like to go check those out. I would definitely encourage people not to be afraid to try it. It is one of the harder things you can do as an amputee, I would say, but once you get it down, it's something that you always have permanently. You can use it to do things in your life that you used to enjoy and to get back into them.